Hello, my Astro family. This is Lada from Astrolada.com. Here today with Vedic and Babylonian, astrology, ancient astrologers, sidereal astrologers, Krasi, Attasio, who will be talking about a fascinating topic, the curse of the American presidents through astrology. Hi, Krasi.
Hi, Wada. Hi, Astro Wada, friends and family. Hi, Wada. Yes, thank you. This topic is fascinating. I think everyone knows about the curse which happened in the 1840s from indigenous, how you said it, chief, right?
Chief.
Yes, and indeed we will look at briefly at the horoscopes of the American presidents which died, assassinated, and then we will see whether this curse is still valid, whether this curse is still powerful, and whether and what is actually the link between their astrological charts and the curse, because this is very powerful. And also what we mentioned about the important conjunctions of the year, because they are very special this year: Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Saturn, Mars, Saturn, multiple conjunctions which are taking place.
Yeah.
Jupiter, Pluto, there were so many. And yes, we will see which, there is this version, many astrologers speak about Jupiter-Saturn conjunction and whether this is the key reason for these presidents to be assassinated. They mention about the correlation between the date of their inauguration, which was related to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and then it is believed that if the inauguration of the presidents happened while Jupiter and Saturn were together, then they are being assassinated or they would die. I have my doubts. Briefly, I will show you what my opinion is, and then, well, it's a very interesting topic indeed.
Okay, yeah. Wonderful. That's fascinating because they'll be in the next Jupiter-Saturn conjunction right around the inauguration of the next president, whoever that will be, in 2021. Yeah. So that might be one of those fated, cursed ones. And so that usually happens around the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Every time there is one, it's known that presidents are more in danger, the one that is inaugurated around that time.
Yes, but well, we will look at the horoscopes very briefly. We will not make horoscopes analysis, just briefly through the main transits which took place at their assassinations or the death. But just to bring you back to this event, what happened, I'm reading here from my notes, it was in the I think it was 1840, when we had the election of William Harrison, who was elected in 1840. And just before that, the Indian chief Tecumseh cursed him and said that he will not be able to continue his presidency, and that every 20 years presidents will die because they killed his brother and because they killed so many indigenous people that they need to pay for this. And this was basically the curse. I think it's known, many people know about this. So what happened is I looked at the horoscope, and I need to share my screen with you. Briefly, we'll go through the horoscopes of the presidents to see if they have this predisposition for being assassinated or to die. Actually, of course, we can see astrologically, you perfectly know that how people will probably die, what will be the reason for that. We will not look in this grief manner to cause of death and stuff. We'll just go very briefly. Just to tell you that William Harrison was believed to have, he caught a cold during the inauguration. And month after that, he died. So let me share my screen to show you his chart. William Harrison. All right, I'm sharing my screen. And then we look, all right. So look, this is the horoscope of William Harrison. Just briefly, what you see here is very is a fallen Mars. And well, Mars is ruling the 7th house. And the 7th house, in the ancient astrology, because here the sun is descending, is very much associated with death. In the Vedic astrology, the 12th house is heavily associated with death. And Mars is the ruler of both 12th and 7th. However, he was not assassinated. Maybe he was cursed, and he had a cold, and then he died shortly after the inauguration procedure. So we're not seeking, Mars would be the reason for somebody to be assassinated. But let's see further the timing. Oops, excuse me. This is the second chart. Yeah, the timing of his death. And what we see here, that this Mars, who is very bad in his chart and who is ruling the 7th house of death and the 12th house of death, just at the moment of death entered the 7th house, became extremely powerful, because Mars, of course, in Scorpio, needless to say, is very, very powerful, and was aspecting the sun in a bad aspect, and was also, there was another thing that I wanted to look at this very moment. There was exact aspect between the transiting Mars and Saturn, and Saturn super powerful in his own placement as well. Yes, there is, if you look from tropical point of view, you will see Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, but pretty wide, really pretty wide, not conjunction to a degree, which would be very, very big possibility for thinking that this was behind his death. But this was the first president victim of the curse. That is why, even though he was not assassinated, we're looking at his horoscope. So you see, at that time, Mars just entered the 7th house. Saturn was just in the beginning, the first degrees of his placement, and we know how bad his natal Mars is, and we see the affliction. Now, if we look at primary directions at this very moment, of course, we will see more, but in order to use primary directions, which always show events, we need to be very sure with the time of birth. Very sure. You know that they're very time sensitive. So for this reason, we're looking just at transits. We could look at perfections and other means, but let's look at transits, since the commonly accepted version is about Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. So yes, there was such conjunction, but very wide. So I'm not convinced that this is the reason behind his death. So shall we move to the next one?
Yes,
and
yes.
Yeah. This was Abraham Lincoln, who ruled 5 years from 1960 to 1965. And actually, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And if we look simply at his horoscope, we see very, very badly placed Mars detriment.
It says he ruled from 1960. It was 1860 to 1860.
Oh, 18. Apologies. Of course it's 18. Oh, yeah, of course it's 18. Sorry. Yeah, very true. So yes, so you can see Mars detriment. He is born in the day, and you know, Lada, when Mars in diurnal horoscopes is difficult because Mars is a night planet. So Abraham Lincoln was born in the day, and as such, Mars is not feeling very comfortable. Another thing is that we can think in this regard due to the Mars that he is Anareta, so-called killing planet. So look also something very interesting. Mars is having an exact aspect towards the Sun. Even if we say that this is a trine aspect, Mars is not good. The Sun is detriment, and also we're having here Saturn, who is also squaring the ascendant. I still believe Mars was the Anareta of the moment of that, and Mars is always associated with assassinated the way for him this took place. Now, this chart is complex, so I'll be explaining here. These are simple transits, and by the book, look what is happening here. This is the moment of death. Mars on the 7th house, the house of death.
Mm.
And we're having Mars with Uranus and Pluto. Very sinister, right?
Oh, wow.
Making an exact opposition to the Sun. Mars was clearly Anareta here, killing planet.
Mm.
When we are searching again Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, you don't have Jupiter-Saturn conjunction here, so we cannot find correlation between curse and Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, right? I think when we look at these two horoscopes, if there is given in the chart that someone will be assassinated or that somebody will die through in the water or will be whatever reason, it's in the horoscope, right? So in this sense, look here, it's really very bad. The exact opposition of Mars, Uranus, and Pluto, three super difficult planets.
He's also to his natal Pluto as well.
Yes, terrible. Look, and exact opposition to a degree. Pluto transiting 22nd degree and Pluto ascendant 22nd degree. Mars and Pluto were the anaretas in this sense, I think, killing planets. Even Jupiter on the ascendant couldn't save him. Which I would think positively, I would say, oh, this Jupiter must save him, right? Because he's born in the day. Jupiter is so good in the day charts. This Jupiter gave him power. This Jupiter gave him position in the society, but couldn't save his life, obviously.
Mm.
And you see here, we don't have Jupiter-Saturn conjunction.
But wasn't maybe he was inaugurated during Jupiter-Saturn?
No, I checked. Too wide also. Let's look at William McKinley, who ruled from 1900 to 901, and I think William McKinley was assassinated. Let's look at his horoscope very briefly. And what you have here is a night chart, and you're having here something very heavy. First of all, look, the ascendant is in the 30th degree of Virgo, conjoined speaker, good. Star of money, star of wealth, star of fame, star of spirituality, beautiful, beautiful star, you know, is speaker. But because this is the very last 30th degree, I believe you have also the influences of the second house to be like ascendant, right? It's like they're exchanging energies. And you have a heavily detriment Mars, very detriment Mars, who is aspecting the planet, which is, Sun, invisible moon, Jupiter, and the planet which is ruling himself, which is Mercury. So this Mars here it's like this last degree of the ascendant has to do with the second house. They're exchanging, and Mars, it's like on the ascendant, he's heavily influencing the ascendant. And of course, Mars aspecting the Sun heavily in a square, aspecting the Moon. What is the Moon? His body, his health, his mind. We have a difficult chart here. If the time of birth is correct, we don't know for sure. I found them in Wikipedia, in astro.com. People can check. And this is the moment of death. Again, what is happening here is, my God, what a look, Mars opposed. Again, the seventh house. You know, with the more and more cases, horoscopes I see, the more convinced I am that the seventh house has to do a lot with death, like the ancients say.
Yeah, rather than the eighth house.
Rather than the eighth house. The eighth house is so mystical, and if people are esoteric, if people are spiritual, the eighth house can do good, actually. This is my opinion. But in this case, look, the heavy influence of, and the fallen Mercury with Mars, and we had something else here. What was it? Let me see, I forgot it already. We have Saturn, he's having a Saturn in return, and square, almost exact square with the Mars and Saturn square. This is the second horoscope when we see the first horoscope of William Harrison. We saw again square, transiting square Mars-Saturn. So this is a heavy stuff.
Well, we're going to be having Saturn square very long this year, in September, in October. It carries on till November, till December.
Heavy. That's why we were predicting heavy times for each one, for everyone after autumn, because of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is heavy. Saturn Mars square. We saw it in the first horoscope, and this person, William McKinley, died during this very heavy. And also he had Mars, Saturn in return, and on the nodes, which are also very, very important. Of course, if we dig into this, if we look at primary directions, we will see more, but we're just looking at transits, quite powerful as well. And now JF Kennedy, very interesting. JF Kennedy, we know a lot about him. NATO chart, he's having look, we know how he died. We see here he is born in the day. We know about his powerful Aldebaran. We know about his, sexual life. Well, this is encoded in the chart. I think it's clear. But here we have detriment Saturn, who is not so bad in the diurnal chart, but is very much detriment, and receives the square of Mars, wide square, but a square. And Mars is invisible. As such, in a daily chart, he can easily become Anareta, killing planet. And he was. And now this is the day of his assassination. And we are having, let's see for a moment. Saturn in Capricorn, and is squaring his natal Mars. Oh. And I remember here I was looking at his primary directions, and Mars was Anareta. Mars killed him actually. Here we are having also aspect, almost exact aspect Mars Saturn. Oh, okay. Sextile, but again aspect. Yeah. So if we're searching for a correlation, we maybe should look at Mars and Saturn rather than Jupiter Saturn, because in this case also Jupiter Saturn has nothing to do with.
But he was inaugurated during Jupiter Saturn conjunction, a year that this happened.
Was it exact? I think it was wide, too wide.
Mm-hmm. But because I was looking at the president is in office during the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, the curse follows them basically.
Could be. Why I'm not convinced enough is because it's too wide in most of the cases. Like you can see with William Harrison, who died almost immediately after his inauguration, was very wide. With most of them was very wide. So, but anyway, what we see here is that the troublesome death needs to be in the horoscope in order to take place, right? So curses are curses, and I believe in them, and it's something very heavy. And I think we had with you 1 or 2 years ago exactly video on this, how to find curses through the horoscopes. We were doing this, and we were showing to people, when you see it, you see when somebody has curse. But in these particular cases, there was a risk for these people to die via Martian, means like.
Seems like most of them have kind of the Mars is in bad condition. Yeah.
That's my impression.
Or in weak sign, or with aspect with Saturn. And it seems every time they killed Saturn and Mars are making an aspect again. So it's
even sextile, almost exact sextile you have here. Look,
in ancient texts they said any aspect between Saturn and Mars was bad.
Exactly, like any aspect between Jupiter and Venus is good. Like it can be square, it's still good. Mm-hmm. It will manifest in different ways indeed, but it's still and here you have also a square, exact square, Saturn transiting towards Mars square natal.
Wow. So it's
Well,
always Saturn Mars that's involved. It's very,
always,
yeah.
always in all these cases. So this is something like an interesting discovery for us, like not a very pleasing one, because such aspect we're going to see soon, as you just said. But also, I have the horoscope of Donald Trump, and we
Oh,
should not look at it. Maybe I don't know. Let me just make it too minimal. We will not. I don't want to predict things here. It's not right. Just let's look at his horoscope. His Mars is also difficult because he's born in the day, and Mars is on the ascendant in near Regulus, you know. So also some of the eclipses are going to take place on this axis and in conjunction with his natal moon. So I hope this is not going to afflict him. And I know that he is an astrologer and he has knowledge, and hopefully he will know how to protect himself. Let's not do more on
Donald
his
Trump
chart.
is an astrologer?
Well, look at his placement. Look where is the ascendant in the vicinity of Zosma.
Maybe
I
he
believe,
uses astrologers.
or he's obsessed with astrology, very much into astrology.
Or
Would
the
have
occult.
team of us. Oh, that's for sure. That with this look at the other Saturn Venus, when they make conjunction, it's this is conjunction of the occultists very much. This is
Occult.
bringing him the issues that he had with marriages and in women for sure. But on the other hand, this is something very esoteric, and it's not bad when you're seeking esoteric and occult um, knowledge, then this can be very interesting. Also, you know, this powerful Mercury. Mercury is the ruler, the classic ruler of astrology. Look how powerful in Gemini. This Mercury is amazing. Look at Sun and Rahu in Capella, in sacred degrees. He was maybe a priest or something before. He has the knowledge, but this is not an easy horoscope. Also, when we look at eclipses and
He's born on an
well,
eclipse.
so
It's
maybe to go
interesting
back
that
to this,
I've seen that people that were born on
interesting
eclipses,
horoscopes of presidents who were assassinated. And we see the main thing here, which is important, I believe, and very negative, is the Jupiter, is the Saturn-Mars aspects.
is this current Saturn Mars square going to affect him? But
It's
I've
going to
noticed
be,
something that people in high positions, like the Pope, John, what was his name, like Donald Trump, they're born on eclipses, and usually those people die on eclipses as well. So it's kind of
very interesting. I didn't never thought of this. Interesting.
but anyway, thank you so much, Krasi. Actually, Krasi is offering a reading that is discounted a lot now. It's for the current planetary influences of 2020, how they're affecting you currently and how they're going to affect you for the future, because a lot of new cycles are starting. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions. So she's going to look at your chart, and she's slashed it in half almost. It's a 30-minute recording. You can check it out. And how it's going to influence you in the future. Specifically for those influences, we're trying to help everyone by slashing our prices as much as possible, so people can afford it in those scary times, basically. Well, thank you so much, Krasi. That was a fascinating topic. I look forward to have you again, maybe towards the end of April, for remedies, because that's what people are interested in. And Krasi is master at remedies, astrological remedies, and occult remedies through talismans and different, and not only talismans, a lot of different daily practices that you can use. And I guess we've never needed that more than now.
Yes, thank you, Wada. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you, Krasi. Fabulous presentation. Very interesting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Wada.